For note reading this week, we're going to look at this duet, Clair De La Lune, from page 13 in your book. But I also uploaded a PDF of it if you have a different edition of the book and it's not the same page. For most of you, this will be page 13 in the book. So looking at this page here, you'll see that we've got two lines, and of course it says part 1 and part 2 here in the printed music, and it also tells you this is a duet. What's a duet? Well, it's two parts, two separate parts. A trio is 3 parts, a quartet is 4 parts, etc. And there are a lot of great pieces that you can play for 2 guitars. We could actually play this with 3 guitars. You could have one person strumming the chords up top while you had one person playing this notation and a third person playing this notation. So you could do this as a trio. In terms of the notation, there are just 2 parts written here, and these are to be played at the same time. There are 2 visual ways that you can immediately tell that's the case. One, they are connected by this, what's called a brace here. When you have connected by a brace in the left-hand margin, that means those parts are being played at the same time. You've probably seen this in piano notation. Usually this is treble clef and bass clef, the grand staff in piano. And they are connected by this brace. That means they are played together at the same time. In piano, the right hand plays generally the treble clef, while at the same time, the left hand is playing these bass clef notes. Since we're reading this for 2 guitars, both parts are written in treble clef. And so I'd like you to practice both parts this week. What we're going to do, 2 things. We're going to play through it with the metronome to get used to that. And the first time, I'm going to play through this part 2, and you're going to play along with part 1 on the top so that we are playing a duet. Then we're going to switch, and you're going to play part 2 while you hear me play part 1. So you'll get to play both parts. It's a relatively simple piece. You'll notice right away the form is A, B, A, meaning this line and this line are the same. We call that A. So is this, A. Only the third line is different, and that's similar to the Beethoven Ode to Joy melody that we learned. That's a common form, A, B, A. Okay, the notes are using the first, second, and third strings only. And you'll want to practice it a few times first before you play along with me, but I'm gonna play through this so that you can practice along with it during the week. And I'm gonna set the metronome. That's good. That's at 60 beats per minute, which obviously is the same as the second hand clock on a watch. Second hand indicator on a watch. You know what I meant. Okay, I'm going to play this part. I'm going to play part 2 this time. And when you're ready, you'll play part 1 along with me playing part 2 so that you're hearing a duet. All right, so I'm playing part 2. And you're going to play part 1. I'll count it in. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a whole note. 1, 2, 3, 4. Next line. So it's the same thing again. To the next group. One, 2, 3, 4. Last line. And one thing I should mention also, when you're playing music like this, we call these systems. So this is the first system, second system, third system, fourth system. If you're playing part 1, you're playing the top part of each system. So once you finish here, you go right to part one of the second system, part one of the third system, part one of the fourth system. And I just played all the bottom parts of each system. Okay, now we're gonna switch. I'm gonna keep the metronome at 60, and now I'm gonna play part one while you play part two. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Second system. It's the same thing though. Whole note. 1, 2, 3, 4. Third system. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you get the idea. This is a nice thing to practice because it gives you a chance to play a complementary part or harmony with another part. And just so you know, something to think about has to do with a little theory. These two parts are playing a third apart. What does that mean? Well, you've got this C note here, and part one is the main melody. And then for a lot of this piece, the harmony is in part two, and it's playing 3 notes above what the harmony, the melody is. So this harmony is a third above, meaning here's a C. C is 1, D is 2, E is 3. We're talking about notes, 3 notes apart. So this E, 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 F is a third above C, 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 D. And that harmony in thirds, if you've ever heard that before, it's one of those most common harmonies in music. Singers do it, etc. So a singer can be singing the tune and then someone will harmonize a third above and it sounds great. That's why it's one of the most common ways to harmonize any melody. Okay, have fun with this duet and happy practicing as always.